Welcome back to the channel. We've got the 1991 Honda Prelude SI in the garage, and I went ahead and just moved the 88 over here. It's really nice to actually have it out in the daylight. It looks, man, I love this car still. It's gonna be, I still undecided if I really want to sell it. I'm kind of thinking this could be a cool, just like learn how to do stuff and don't go for perfection kind of car. You know, cut out some of the rust and either just paint it and leave it, you know, cut for now, and then just keep building it. You know, maybe do like a rattle can paint job and see how good of a result I can get, and then maybe, you know, put like, find a buddy who can just, you know, kind of weld and just weld up some patch panels for the rocker panels, and then maybe cut out the rust part of the fenders and do like some plastic wide body fenders. You never know. I love this car. I think it looks, the 88 looks so cool. So that's where that one's sitting for now. But for this one today, I want to keep, I'm basically just waxing each panel a little bit here and there each day. So I've already done the hood, this fender, the top of the driver's side door. So today I might try and knock out like this front fender and maybe the passenger door, and we'll just see kind of how far we get. I also want to detail the underside of the bonnet, get the underside of the hood all cleaned up, and then do a little bit of detail work in the engine bay as well as the trunk. And check this out. I never really got around to showing you guys the inside of the trunk, but it's immaculate. Carpet's there and everything, and it came with 2 manuals. I mean, look at the size of this book. So I've got the 1991 Prelude service manual, as well as the electrical troubleshooting manual for the 1991. So, I mean, these are rare just in themselves, but can't be more happy to have them. Doing a lot of DIY, or mostly, if not all DIY stuff. These things are going to be extremely useful in the coming years. So, got those. Got to find a nice, probably bring those inside so they don't get ruined. But trunk is here. It's just dirty. Like, it's not rusty. It's just dirty. So I want to clean up all of this. Obviously, you've got the factory spare. We've got the factory toolkit, which is freaking awesome. I mean, this car just has everything, and it's not rusty, just dirty. So I want to go ahead and kind of clean this all out. And then in here, it's actually got what looks to be possibly an entirely unused, never used OEM jack with the cover. So just so stoked about this Prelude. I did already go through and clean up this sill that is where the trunk sits down, and absolutely no rust in here up by the window. I mean, everything is just in immaculate shape. So not much left to do there. That's pretty good to go. I do want to grease the factory antenna, just clean it up and grease it. This thing, living in New Mexico, never saw like salt or, you know, snow for that matter, but definitely saw some dust. So just cleaning it up little by little. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Yeah, just dirty, you know, nothing crazy. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of kind of all-purpose cleaner and just clean this up and get the grime off of it at least. And then I may just take a little bit of like lithium grease after this and make sure this thing slides in and out pretty easily. So that should do just nicely. Ah, this car is so clean, guys. you know, seeing the two next to each other, the 88 and the 91, honestly makes me really want to keep the 88, just because it's almost like a different car to me. One, it's a different body style, different year, different motor, but I don't know, man. I think like now that I have a clean one that I can do all the things I really wanted to do on it, maybe I keep the 88 and just use that as more of like a fun trial and error car, you know, fix the bodywork as best as I can and then paint it as best as I can. Who knows, maybe put a KBD kit, which would be the cheaper body kit on that one, which would hide the, I could be as crappy as I want with the, you know, rust welding patches on the rockers, because that's gonna get covered up by the body kit. And then maybe run like the Poly Bauer kit on the nicer Prelude. And the Poly Bauer kit is quite expensive, but I love the look of it. It's also got a really sweet wing, and I think this thing bagged with a Poly Bauer kit would be really cool. Also, side note, I am already in the works on getting a rear windshield visor for this thing. So I've got a couple different options, and one of the options would involve a group buy, and I'd probably buy maybe a handful of them to start, and if there's enough demand for it, you know, sell them and then bring in more if you guys are into that. But the rear windshield visor for the 3rd gen Prelude, I think it's a cool part, and I really love the look of it, especially having the body kit plus that visor. It's gonna look sweet. So I think just a little bit of grease on this. Where is my grease? Not gonna go too crazy, but just wanna make sure this thing stays in good condition. I ended up deleting my factory antenna on the 88, and I kind of regret it. I do kind of regret it. I thought it looked stupid, but now that I'm a little older, a little bit wiser, I realize how cool and rare these cars are, and to keep them in factory-ish shape is the preferred method, or at least keeping kind of the rare components like a working rear, what is it called? Antenna. Also, I feel like this, I might get in trouble on YouTube for this, but gotta do what you gotta do. Keep the classics alive. So, greased up, shouldn't have to do this again for like a year. I also forgot in the last video, you guys didn't see this thing with the OEM wheels on. So here's how she sits. And honestly, my Heritage wheels, I think with the car not being lowered, looked really goofy. Whereas I just feel like the stock wheels are really cool. And one of you guys was saying that these wheels were actually designed by the same company that designs Ferrari wheels. So that's pretty cool. I am missing a hubcap on one of them. So if any of you guys have this style hubcap, an extra one laying around, let me know. Would happily take it off your hands. But I think now I'm going to probably start on buffing a little bit of this. I'm gonna start with this fender, work my way back. Like I said, I'm just doing this slowly but surely so I don't overwhelm myself with having to do the whole car and rushing through it. So panel by panel, I'm gonna start with this fender. Just got the fender all buffed, and I went ahead and just decided to take off the mud flap just so that way I could clean the paint behind it, because it obviously overhangs this fender a little bit, and it was pretty gnarly under there, but the paint was perfect underneath the dirt and grime, so just a little bit of cleaner. Also took the time to clean up the mud flap, and that's kind of like how I'm gonna tackle this car, at least at first. I'm not gonna go heavy into the mods right away. I want to clean the car, clean every bolt, clean everything, and get this thing in pristine condition, see what needs fixing, like the vehicle speed sensor. I want to fix that ASAP, and could just be taking the old one out and rebuilding it and re-greasing it. That might work. Otherwise, I may have to run like a early 90s Accord speed sensor, which supposedly will work, but it just doesn't bolt up directly to the Prelude vehicle speed sensor lower. So it should work, but I want to try fixing the Prelude one that's on there now first and see if that helps. Also, it could be the motherboard on the back of the cluster, which hopefully not, because that would involve some cleaning and soldering, and I don't really want to go ripping the interior apart quite yet. So it's going to be pretty involved to get to the vehicle speed sensor. It requires probably taking out the air intake, which is a lot, and let's see if I can get my hands down there to loosen it up and pull it out. But that's the plan for this thing for now, is just clean the heck out of it, make it really shine for what it is, and see what we've got to work with from there. Also, if anyone's doing this, just turn your wheel whichever direction you need to, depending on what side of the car you're working on, to make sure you can get an actual full-size Phillips in here and not have to use one of these guys, because it's pretty tedious on your hands, and yeah, work smarter, not harder. Just knocked out the top of the trunk. Look at that glisten. That is crazy for 34-year-old paint. So I think you can definitely see the kind of just matte to this panel compared to this panel. At least the human eye picks it up maybe a lot better than the camera can, but that's crazy. It is so smooth. So just wanted to see what that would look like, and also wanted to show you guys the trunk, or the rear bumper, excuse me. There's a scratch right there, and that's basically peeled the paint off. And then this side here, I think that'll buff out. I'm not sure if someone just backed into something or what there, but definitely a little bit of a scuff, and hoping that will come right out. While I have you here though, obviously running stock exhaust on this thing, and well, hold on. On the 88 Prelude, I'm running like a 3-inch stainless straight pipe basically out to a cheap Amazon muffler that has completely blown out all of its silencing material, so it's pretty obnoxiously loud, but it is a lot of fun to drive as well. I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a few revs, and hopefully you guys like it. And this car is so quiet. If you're listening to the radio, you can't hear the RPMs or anything. It's so quiet, which is nice. You know, it was great driving from New Mexico to here, because it's just peace of mind, quiet, whatever I'm trying to say there. But with it being, it's a sports car from the 80s and 90s. You know, I want to make it sound a little bit more like a sports car, but I also don't want to run a $30 Amazon muffler. So I was thinking, to do it some justice, maybe I pick up either like a Tomei muffler or even like a Spoon Honda muffler. I think would be cool. And then either at that time do like some new piping all the way out to it. I haven't really gotten underneath there. I'm assuming the piping is in perfect shape because there's no rust on this, but you know, maybe start with the muffler and then do the rest of the piping later. But let me know down in the comments if you guys have any recommendations on a muffler. Just want to add a little bit of noise to this thing. Nothing obnoxious, but I'd also like to be able to hear, you know, my RPM range, hear when I'm shifting and downshifting and rev match downshifting. Sounds so good in these cars. So I want to actually be able to hear it. I'm not in a rush to do it. I want to make good decisions and buy good quality parts. So like I said, Tomei I know is a popular one and also very high quality. And then Spoon for Hondas, obviously great stuff too. So if you guys have a recommendation on that, I think I'd want to keep it the stock 2 outlet or double outlet for the exhaust tip. I think that I want to keep it looking OEM, you know, OEM plus with really quality parts. That's the plan. So I think, you know, buffed some panels, cleaned up some mud flaps. Probably gonna jump on this again tomorrow because it's starting to get later in the day. So I will catch you guys in the AM. So I moved the Prelude Almighty textbooks inside so that way they're nice and safe, and I think now I want to start cleaning out this trunk, which probably just means pulling this out, which is still in remarkably good shape. I think it'd be nice to maybe rebuild this, take this one and trace it out, and then try and rebuild it because it's not entirely flat, but set this aside for now. Got the OEM tools. I think they're the OEM tools. Just the regular old wheel tools. So that's pretty cool. I'm assuming these are original. Holy, this thing's been like stuck to the floor, but oh, looks like an unused brand new spare tire and wheel. Oh, wow. It is so nice to pop this open and not have, when I bought my 88 Prelude, I did this same thing I'm doing now, and there was about 4 inches of water just sitting in here. Pretty nice that all that's in here is just dust. So I'm gonna start cleaning this out, get it looking good, and then we'll jump under the engine and clean that up. And then also start looking at pulling out the vehicle speed sensor, rebuilding it, put it back in hopefully, and see if my speedometer and odometer are working. Here's how the trunk turned out. Looks pretty dang clean. And got a lot of this grime all cleaned up. I still would like to basically pull out all of this carpet and siding from this whole thing so I can clean behind it, but I'm gonna leave that for another day. And pretty happy with this. Everything underneath it is spot clean. Next up is going to be underneath the hood. And again, underneath here we have a fuel injected 2.0 4-cylinder dual overhead cam. Pretty excited about this, mainly because it's fuel injected, but want to start by cleaning this up, and then to get to the vehicle speed sensor, it's mounted onto the transmission kind of straight down from here. So I'm probably gonna have to remove the air intake, which is basically from here all the way down and then goes to all of this. So we'll see. You know, I really only need to get access back here, so I might be able to avoid taking apart all of this, but definitely back here to get to it. But first, I want to just kind of start by wiping stuff down and getting it cleaned up. So since I finished cleaning the engine bay and the underside of the hood, I've got the vehicle speed sensor out, and I had to basically remove the air box, the filter and all that. I also had to unhook the manual shift cables so that way I could get that out of the way. And I don't have a light under here right now, but I got the vehicle speed sensor out. So I just took off the top portion of it. I didn't take out the entire speed sensor. It was kind of a pain, but really it's only 2 bolts that hold it onto the lower part of the speed sensor. So this is just the upper. And again, if I didn't mention it already, because it's a 1991 facelift Prelude for the 3rd gen, it's actually just an electronic speed sensor. So there's no cable running from the speed sensor to the cluster like there is on the 88s and 89s. So the plan is to basically take this thing apart, clean it out, re-grease it, put it back together, put it back in the car, and see if it works. Otherwise, if it doesn't, I will have to do like the, I think it's like a 1992 Accord speed sensor, which is a little different as far as these mounting holes go, but it is doable. But I'm gonna try and fix the OEM one first. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Phillips heads. I'm gonna try and remove 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this thing is spring loaded, so I gotta be pretty careful taking this apart. There's the top cover. See all the grease up in there. And let's see, there's a gasket on it. I'm gonna pull the gasket off, just like so. And it looks like this portion is also screwed in. So that's the spring. So that comes out, spring facing down with the little nub on top. So I'm gonna set that carefully right there. Okay, there's 1, there's 2. Yeah, the electrical portion here slides up and out. We're left with the lower portion. I don't think this comes apart anymore, so that should be that. Literally took every piece off. Got the cable here. So you've got the 2 housings, 5 screws, plus the 2 screws that hold this piece in, the gasket, the spring and cap, and then this guy with the 2 washers on it. And then I was actually able to get this little, you may not be able to see it, but it's a little hexagon that sits in here out, and I sanded that down with 400 grit and sanded down the top of this. That is what touches that guy there. So hypothetically now all that's left to do is reassemble. So I'm just gonna be quite deliberate with the dielectric grease, and I'm gonna start well, that's one way to do it. That's definitely deliberate. And I'm gonna throw some grease on this, get it all, come on, nice and greased up. Okay, that's a lot of grease. This is and there we go, those are tightened down. And I don't have high hopes for this because it doesn't really seem like anything was too dirty or gunked up or the grease was solidified. Like everything was still pretty good. I'm gonna put this spring back in there, and we've got our hexagon piece back in, so now it should just be a matter of putting this back on. Okay, so I'm just gonna get these 5 screws tightened down, and then this thing should be ready to go back into the car. So I got the air intake and everything put back together. The sensor is back in there. I didn't really bother cleaning much. I have a sneaking suspicion that this isn't going to fix the problem, and in a few days I'll be putting a 1992 Accord speed sensor in here. So when that comes, I will clean everything up and take a little bit more time with it. I also noticed that the air intake was not even clamped down, so possibly had a little bit of a vacuum leak, and one of the bolts that holds the filter housing in is sheared off. So I'll have to go back in there, try and get the old piece out and find a replacement bolt for it. But I'm gonna take it for a quick test drive. Fingers crossed the speedo works. No tools, right? No tools. So the cluster is still not working. So either the speed sensor that I just refurbished is just completely shot, or the issue is somewhere behind the cluster with the motherboard or some sort of connection back there. So I guess next step will be to order the 92 Accord VSS and do what I did today all over again. Well, the rebuild of the speed sensor did not work, so I've ordered I think it's a 1993 Honda Accord speed sensor for this thing, and I've been getting a bunch of mixed information on the forums and websites, YouTube videos and stuff on issues with the 3rd gen Prelude vehicle speed sensor, and some people were saying like 91 and 90 Accords, some people were saying 90 to 93, so I ordered one. Costs like 20 bucks. Apparently it's not gonna fit perfect, and I'll have to get creative with mounting it, but long story short, that should be here in a couple days, so I'll pick things back up once I have that. I also ordered some new gasketing for the taillights, just because like every 3rd gen I've ever owned, they tend to leak. So on the 88, the actual taillights themselves were leaking water. So even though I replaced the gaskets, water would still fill up the taillights and then leak into the trunk. I'm hoping that's not the scenario with the 91, and all I have to do is replace the gasket, because that's about a 10-minute job. So look forward to new vehicle speed sensor. Once again, hopefully we can sort that out together, and that might be helpful for some of you guys, because I know a lot of you deal with speedo issues on these 3rd gens. And then we've got the new taillight gasketing, and yeah, I've got some little stuff that I want to do with this thing coming up. I want to do some LEDs, especially on like the license plate lights. You know, maybe start swapping out some of these bulbs for LEDs. I want to do the headlights as well, but I'm really tired of upgrading to LEDs on headlights, and then the high beam indicator on the cluster doesn't work anymore. So if there's any workarounds, or if you guys know of like a component that you can buy that still allows the high beam indicator to work when you're running LEDs on these older cars, that would be cool. But that's kind of all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. And just a reminder, the rear windshield visor, I'm gonna be probably putting together a group buy for that. So if you're interested, let me know down in the comments, and we can kind of see, the more people we get, I think the better the pricing. But it's coming from overseas, so shipping wise, you'll have to let me work through it, but I gotta first see how many people are actually interested. So stay tuned for that. Love you guys. Keep elevating, my friends. Adios.